Well, good evening, sir. How you doing? You're even more handsome in person than I've seen you on pictures. The legend grows. Dr. Gregory Thompson, how you doing? So tonight, you and I are gonna, just kind of have a real civil, heart-to-heart conversation, and I'm basically going to show you basically the facts and let you make up, your own judgment based on the facts, or show you where you can find everything. You can take your time, research everything yourself. I not only allow but welcome you to verify everything yourself. Give anybody and everybody the opportunity to either substantiate or contradict anything that I have to say, and we'll go from there. I mean, to me, the issues are going to speak for themselves. So I'm going to go all the way back to, I wrote 3 articles. I'm going to go all the way back to article number 1. And we're going to kind of go through some of the points that are being contested by some of the other fellows. And I'm going to show you my side. And again, I welcome you to give them the opportunity to show you their side. Is that fair enough? Is that fair enough? Hello, you can't, I can't hear you on the, can you hear? You're muted. Good. Go ahead and talk now.
Is that any better?
Yeah, I hear you now. Okay. The dreaded glitch of technology, right?
There you go.
All right, so we're going to go through kind of some of the contested points, some of the things that have been contested one way or the other.
Okay.
I'm going to start by opening up this article right here.
And John, this is something similar that I wanted Don to do on his side. Whether it's on video or whatever, that I want to see what backs up each person's argument.
Yeah, and I welcome that conversation, because now I'm not gonna tell you what's what. I'm going to show you the evidence, and if he can counter anything that I have to say, I'm definitely not going to try and stop you from doing that. Because look, I'm a Christian man first and foremost. So if I can be corrected, if something that I'm saying is not true, and somebody can show me, correct me, hey,
Sure.
I'm going to make a course correction. All right.
And probably with something you said earlier, as I look everything and then research everything, it may not be immediately tonight, although some things might, but I will research.
Research it, chew on it, and
yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
So one of the very first claims that they're making is that on John Carpenter's show, that they have never once did a show about an officially condemned apparition. So I'm going to show you that claim is absolutely, demonstrably, categorically false. So what you see here, you see my little finger pointy thing here?
Yes.
What you're looking at here is just a screenshot. This isn't something that I created. This isn't something that doctored up or whatever. I literally took a picture of the screen, converted it to a picture, and uploaded it. So this is a picture of what this website actually shows. And it's Catholic news agency, which is a very reliable Catholic news source, and it's a subsidiary of Mother Angelica's Eternal Word television network. That is what CNN is, okay?
Okay.
And this was an article that they posted in 2020. And I believe it was September of 2020. We can go back and check that out. But you see the language very clear. Vatican's doctrinal office don't promote alleged apparitions connected to Our Lady of all nations. That was the message from the Vatican. These are condemned, do not promote it. All right, so the history on this is these apparitions were first condemned in 1956. Then they were condemned in 1972. Then they were condemned again in 1974. Then in 2002, the Bishop of Amsterdam attempted to overrule the previous condemnation, and the Vatican slapped it down and said, no, this is condemned. These apparitions are false. Do not promote them. End of story. Okay?
Okay.
This is a screenshot from the Deeper Truth Show. And look what John Carpenter is promoting. And in the show, he actually said that Mary specifically asked to be addressed as Our Lady of all nations. Now, this right here is in direct defiance of the Catholic Church. This, what you're seeing right here, came out 5 months after the 2020 condemnation, which was like the 5th condemnation of these apparitions. And it was the Vatican. It wasn't even the local bishop. It was the Vatican saying, it's false. Do not promote it. Again, let me scroll up so you can see the language is clear. Don't promote alleged apparitions connected to Our Lady of all nations. And here is John Carpenter doing exactly that. And this was episode 3. Now, I brought this up to Donald's. You can look at the top of this article, Greg, and see it's February 25th. I brought this to Donald's attention in February. Now, they could claim ignorance, okay? We all make mistakes. Certainly I do every single day. And they could have issued a retraction and said, you know what? We didn't realize we made a mistake. We shouldn't have been doing this show here. These apparitions are condemned, and do a retraction and pull the show off, right? It's now May. They haven't done that. Okay. So, you know, it's just really incredible. This is just the start. Okay. So now I want to go down, and I'm going to kind of jump through all of this stuff and do it really quick. So this is Donald Hartley last year on May the 2nd, 2021. Now, May the 2nd, 2021 was the 12th year anniversary of my founding of Deeper Truth. And this is Donald Hartley admitting that. And I want you to listen. This is his words.
John Benko and I was shoulder to shoulder against the anti-Catholics on YouTube. And for a while there, I mean, it was almost like we were standing up against the world there. It really did. Because, we were getting
now or
hit.
back then?
Back then.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Since,
okay.
Now, back in 2009, May the 2nd, this is the anniversary. One of the things that was a big plus for me with John Benko as a partner here is that John had previously been involved with Block Talk Radio on a political show. And so he was very informed about Block Talk Radio and how it works, and, you know, what you basically do as a radio announcer and all that. And so he was a guiding light on that, because in 2009, I was in Iraq. And so he was taking the lead in getting this set up. We had previously been, like I was saying, involved with the YouTube, and that was something that we did for some time, for a good while. And so John invited me to be a full-time partner with Deeper Truth, and he inaugurated it May the 2nd, 2009. At the same time, I was in Iraq. I was at Slaughter City.
Partly admitting that he wasn't even in the country when I found a deeper truth. The truth is that I had found a deeper truth more than a year before I even met Donald Hartley. The YouTube battles that we were talking about were in 2010, and it was shortly after those YouTube battles that I brought him on the first show in August of 2010, which was 15 months after I found a deeper truth. And as you recall, it was a short time after that we brought you on for the first time. That is the factual record. It is indisputable. Now, this is John Carpenter just a few months after that. Now, you heard John Carpenter is on this call, and he's listening to Don Hartley set the record straight and tell John Hartley that I'm the one that found a deeper truth. This is John Carpenter on his radio show.
Joining me tonight is my co-host, Donald Hartley, Deeper Truth founder. Hello, Donald.
Now, he has made that claim too many times for it to be accidental, and he put it in his book. Now, does this hurt my ego? No, it doesn't. Because you saw over the years, many times I took a back seat on articles that I wrote. I took a back seat on shows that I did, not promoting myself. The problem that I have here, Greg, is that what he's saying here is not true. And we have an apostolate called Deeper Truth, and we have an obligation to report the facts. And when somebody knows what the facts are, and they deliberately keep promoting something that is not true, well, where I grew up, that's called a lie. And that's a sin where I grew up. That when to deliberately say something that's false. But John Carpenter does this constantly. He's constantly saying things that if they're not outright lies, they're so demonstrably untrue that it brings embarrassment on the apostolate. I want you to look at what I'm highlighting here. Okay? This is a claim that John Carpenter makes on almost every show. There are over 2,600 documented appearances of Mary in the history of the Catholic Church. Now, of course, you know, documented means established as genuine. That's what it means. Now, I will agree that there are over 2,600 alleged apparitions of the Virgin Mary. But as you know, many of those have been proven to be false. Many of those, though they have not been proven to be false, have also not been approved. All right. Of this 2,600 number, 386 of these reported 2,600 apparitions occurred in the 20th century. Out of those 386, do you know how many were approved by the Catholic Church?
No.
8. So during the 20th century, there were 8 documented appearances of the Virgin Mary. Do you know how many documented appearances have been approved by the Catholic Church, either on the Vatican level or on the bishop level, official approval of apparitions? Do you know how many there have been in the history of the Catholic Church?
No, I don't.
25. And I documented on here. I have it listed. Okay. So now, just want to play this. These just before we get to the documented apparitions. Okay. These are just so nobody thinks I'm exaggerating about the claim that he's making. I want you to listen to the claim twice, and then I'm going to show the proof that the claim is not true. This is one clip.
That she's gone so many places all over the world through 2,000 years of visits. This is not just an occasional thing, like you might think. Many Catholics know of maybe 5 or 6 apparitions. And to them, that's a lot. But after I've studied 101 of them out of the 2,600 some that there are, and those are just documented ones, she's been busy. There's a lot going on.
So there he's claiming there's 2,600 documented appearances of the Virgin Mary. And just for emphasis, here he does it again. This was from about 6 months ago.
Every week we do take a close look at one of the appearances of the Blessed Virgin Mary, somewhere over the last 2,000 years, and she's appeared nearly 3,000 times. So that's more than once a year if you just do the math. And it's not just in Europe, it's all over the world, as we will see, because tonight we're going to Australia.
Now, this claim here is very damaging to the apostle of deeper truth because it calls us into ridicule. Because what it says is that every time that a Catholic claims that the Virgin Mary appeared in their backyard, the Catholics jump on board. Well, we know that's not the case. We know the Catholic Church studies these things studiously, studies these things exhaustively. My brother, you do a show on Eucharistic miracles. Would you come on there with one that you weren't positive about, one that you weren't sure about, or do you come on there with miracles that the church is foursquare behind? I already know the answer. You don't even have to answer that. Okay? So,
Sure.
how many actually officially approved apparitions of the Catholic Church are there? Well, there's two types. There's those that are approved by the Vatican, officially approved by the Vatican, and then there are those that are approved at the bishop level, but not contested by the Vatican. In the first list, there are 16, and here they are. These are the 16 apparitions officially approved by the Catholic Church. Guadalupe, Mexico, Lezac, Poland, Sylvia, Lithuania, Laos, France, Rudebach, Paris, more commonly known as Rudebach, France, more commonly known as Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal. Okay, Rome, Italy, La Salette, France, Lourdes, France, Philipsburg, Czech Republic, Pontmain, France, Geetswald, Poland, Knock, Ireland, Fatima, Portugal, Bahrain, Belgium, Beno, Belgium, Cabejo, Rwanda. That is it. That is the 16 apparitions officially approved by the Catholic Church. John Carpenter is on record as saying that Medjugorje is approved by the Vatican. That is a false statement. You can see it right here. It's a demonstrably false statement. Now, there are 9 more apparitions that are approved at the bishop level, but they're considered officially approved by the church because the Vatican did not contest the bishop's approval. Okay, let's take a look at those. Quito, Ecuador. Corraine, Britannia, France. Montenegro, Italy. Robbinsville, now Champaign, Wisconsin. We'll revisit this later. Champaign, Wisconsin is approved by the Catholic Church. Okay, Castelpistro, Italy. Batania, Venezuela. Akita, Japan. Guapo, Nicaragua. And San Nicolas, Argentina. Those are the 9 others. So, his statement that there are 2,600 documented appearances of the Blessed Virgin Mary is a demonstrable falsehood, and you will not find any Catholic institution of repute that will support that claim. You won't find that on EWTN. You won't find that on the Vatican website, Ignatius Press, Ave Maria Press, Catholic Answers, Catholic.org. No Catholic site. This claim is literally created in the mind of John Carpenter. There is literally absolutely no support for this claim. And you can tell John Carpenter or tell anybody else that if they can provide substantiated proof of this claim of 2,600 documented apparitions from any reputable Catholic source, I'll give them my house. I'm that sure that it's just not true. Okay, so when John Carpenter has been confronted with this information, he falls back into the, well, you know, I always give the best information, and some people can claim that they don't like the information. That's always on them, but I always provide the best information. To me, the best information is information that is 100% factually correct. Not 75% factually correct, 100% factually correct. And I want you to listen to this clip and see if you hear the factual error that he makes in this clip based on what I just showed you.
So we take this very seriously. We think that this is important to share the research with the world and give you the best details and the best information at all times. I know some people might not agree with some of the information, but that's your choice, always your choice. We just put out the best information available and always give you the approval status, which, by the way, this one tonight in Batania, Venezuela, has been approved officially and by the Vatican. And so just for that right up front.
Okay. Did you catch the statement, Greg?
Do what?
Did you catch the statement?
Yeah.
Batania, Venezuela, officially approved by the Vatican. Here again is the list of 16 apparitions officially approved by the Vatican. And you will see, oh, wait a minute. These are the ones approved by bishops. I'm sorry. This is the one approved by the Vatican. Starting from the top, Guadalupe, Mexico,
Right.
right on down. No Batania, Venezuela on this list.
The Venezuelan was on the bishop approved, right?
It's on the list of bishop approved apparitions. Now, am I splitting hairs? No. The ministry is called Deeper Truth. You have an obligation to be factually correct. Now, he said officially approved by the Vatican. That is an incorrect statement. Now, it's not an egregious incorrect statement, but it's one that needs to be corrected. When you make a mistake, you have to make the correction, because when me and you and Donald founded this apostolate, one of the great things that we prided ourselves on was 100% accuracy. We could have different opinions, but we can't have different facts. Okay? So then he starts talking about Damascus, Syria, and starts talking about, and I'm not going to bring in everything here. He goes into great detail about Mary said this and Mary did that. And Damascus, Syria has not been officially approved by the Catholic Church. It's not on either list. It's not even on the list of 19 traditionally approved. It has been approved by the Syrian Catholic Church. The problem with that statement is the bishop is not identified. There are parts of the Syrian Catholic Church that are in communion with the Catholic Church, and there are parts that are not, right? And by not naming the bishop that approved this apparition, he calls it into question because it's not on the list of approved Catholic apparitions. So if it were officially approved by the Catholic Church, it would be on that list. It would at least be on the bishop's list, and it's not. This is what he says. Then Mary spoke. Then Mary raised her right hand. Okay, these are the things that he said. No equivocation, not it is alleged that Mary spoke. It is said that Mary raised her right hand. And we know that if you don't know it for a fact, you can't state it as a fact. Now, I don't know if Mary appeared in Damascus, Syria or not. I can't prove that she didn't. It hasn't been condemned, but it hasn't been approved either. So you cannot say this. You cannot say Mary raised her right hand. Fact. Mary appeared here. Fact. You cannot do that. It's irresponsible and it's disobedient is what it is. The only official declaration of approval for this apparition is by the Greek Orthodox Church, which, as you know, is not in communion with the Catholic Church. Okay? So now this is a statement from Donald Hartley that he put on Deeper Truth. John, your truth is not the truth. Just taking a look at what we've done in the Journey with Mary series, in over 8 years, well over 90% of the shows were based on church-approved events. We did 0 of any event that has been formally condemned by the church. Well, I just proved this part of the statement is false. I've just proven that. Amsterdam is condemned by the church. Okay? So what I did, obviously I can't go over 8 years of the Journey with Mary series. So what I did was I said, I'm going to take from the time that John Hartley made this statement, and I'm going to start back from there and I'm going to go the last 50 episodes, 50 consecutive episodes of the Journey with Mary series, and I'm going to use that as a sample. It's not a random sample. I'm going 50 episodes in a row. So it's going to be a nice representative sample. Okay? This is what I found. Okay? The one that he did that night, Betania, Venezuela, was approved by the church. Okay? So he gets one approval. San Nicolas, Argentina, also approved by the bishop. All right, Damascus, Syria, I just went into that, is approved by the Syrian Catholic Church, but look at this. Look at this, Greg. I gave him the benefit of the doubt and scored it in his favor, just to show that I'm being fair. But look at this. Number 4, Luzon in the Philippines, condemned by the Vatican on December 11th, 2015. Condemned. Lest anybody have any doubt, here's the link. Okay. Initially declared as non-supernatural after an investigation by 6 Filipino bishops headed by Cardinal Rufo Santos on April 11th, the case was reopened in 1991 by the local bishop. On 12 September 2015, the Archbishop of Lipa, Ramon Arguelles, against explicit direction from the Holy See and the Bishop of the Philippines, finally firmly approved the apparition, declaring them supernatural. Listen to what happened. The bishop tried to approve these apparitions. This will come up later. Look at this. In response, the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith, that's the Vatican, on 11/12/15 declared the apparition non-supernatural. The Archbishop of Lipa received the official copy on May 31st. Final verdict on 1 June 2016, public statement retracting his judgment. The bishop tried to approve these apparitions, and guess what, Greg? The Vatican said no. Declined. Okay? There is no question this apparition is condemned by the Catholic Church. All right? Medjugorje. 8 consecutive episodes on Medjugorje. Here's the link. Okay? Official position of the church. Until such time as the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith releases its finding, the 1991 determination of the Yugoslav Bishops' Conference as not of supernatural origin still stands. So until the Ruiny Report is approved, Medjugorje is a condemned apparition. Here it is right here in black and white. And all of these links, when people look at this show, here's all the links. You can go to them and see them yourself. All of these things on here are clickable links. Okay? Garabandal, Spain. EWTN. In answer to the question about the alleged Marian apparitions at Garabandal, Spain, Bishop Jose Belanda says the following. Some people have been coming directly to the diocese about the alleged apparitions of Garabandal. I must communicate that all the bishops of the diocese from 1961 to 1970 asserted that the supernatural character of said apparitions took place around that time could not be confirmed. In December of 1977, in union with his predecessors, affirmed that the 6 years the bishop, there were no new phenomena. All right. In November 28, 1992, the congregation, that is again the Vatican, sent its response consisting in that after having examined attentively the mentioned documentation, it did not consider it opportune to intervene directly, removing the ordinary jurisdiction of the bishop. Previous declarations of the Holy See agree in this finding. So 5 bishops condemned Garabandal, and in 1992, the Vatican confirmed that condemnation. It is not arguable. Garabandal is condemned by the Catholic Church, and yet John Carpenter continues to promote it on the show. Another one from the Philippines, Lipa, Philippines, condemned by the Vatican in 2010. Here is the statement from the Archbishop. Okay, people can look this up themselves. I'm not going to read every single statement. Here's the link, in case anybody wants to look it up. Here's the official statement from the Archbishop condemning these apparitions. And of course, this one that we just talked about, Our Lady of All Nations. And look where the link is. You see where the link is from? It's from the Vatican. The Vatican itself is telling us these apparitions are condemned. Don't promote them. Don't promote Our Lady under the title of Our Lady of All Nations, right here. And invites priests and laity to discontinue all forms of propaganda with regard to the alleged apparitions and revelation of Our Lady of All Nations. Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. From the Vatican, Greg. And yet, what does he do? In direct defiance of the Catholic Church, he's promoting these apparitions. Okay, here's another one. G. Bonatale, Italy, not established as supernatural. Worship prohibited. Here's the date. April 30th, 1948. This is the bishop that condemned it. Anybody wants to click on the link? Here's the link. Okay, so what is the score here? The score here is that out of 50 shows, 46% of the 50 shows were condemned apparitions. Apparitions officially condemned by the Catholic Church. So let's go back up at the top and find this statement again from Donald Hartley. Where's that statement? Oh, here it is. Okay. We did zero of any event in 8 years. We did zero of any event that's been formally condemned by the Catholic Church. I just proved that you did 23 in a span of 50 weeks. 23 condemned apparitions in a span of 50 weeks. Now look at this. In over 8 years, 90% of the shows were based on church-approved events. Okay, does that square with the calculation? No. Church-approved events accounted for 38%, not 90%. Out of 50 shows, only 19 of the 50 shows were on church-approved events. 46% were on condemned events. 18% were on unapproved events. These are the facts, Greg. Anybody can look at this information. I've got all of the apparitions listed here. I've got all of the links listed here. Anybody, if I dare anybody to try and counter any of this. These are facts and they're indisputable. Okay? So this is my picture of Donald. My opinion, you don't have to agree with it, but I feel like he has egg on his face after the conclusions that he said about me. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about Amsterdam to really make the case of Amsterdam. In 1956, a diocesan bishop, after careful study, concluded that he found no evidence of the supernatural events. Okay? In 1957, the Vatican issued a statement supporting the bishop's decision. In other words, the Vatican has given the bishop an attaboy saying you made the right choice to condemn these apparitions. In 1972, the condemnation received an official endorsement from the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith. Again, that's the Vatican. Okay. In 1974, there was an appeal, and the Vatican again affirmed the condemnation. So, if that wasn't enough, in 2002, the Bishop of Amsterdam, Holland, Joseph Punt, attempted to declare the Amsterdam apparition supernatural. And as I've already showed you, in 2020, the Vatican slapped that down and said, no, it's condemned. It will stay condemned. Do not. It invited priests and laity to discontinue all forms of propaganda with regard to the alleged apparitions and revelations of Our Lady of All Nations. This is an infallible decree. This is not an official infallible proclamation like the Assumption. but it's an infallible decree under the church's regular authority to bind and loose. In other words, to disobey this willfully is a mortal sin. To disobey this accidentally is material heresy, but to disobey it deliberately is formal heresy. It is a sin. Now, again, this was brought to Donald and John's attention in February. They have an obligation to issue a retraction. Okay. Here it is again. To reiterate, Vatican office, do not promote these alleged apparitions. And here it is being approved. And I call that a checkmate. So now I'm going to jump to article number 2. Okay. Article number 2 is about the Ruiny Report. It's about the statements that are made about the Ruiny Report. Now, here I did the same thing that I did before. I just did a screenshot from Catholic News Agency, but I added highlight to this part. So this is the only thing that I added was the highlight. Didn't change the text, I just highlighted the text, okay? Because this part should jump out at you. Francis, which being Pope Francis, mentioned them on the airplane. The Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, led by Cardinal Gerhard Ludwig Muller, this is the Vatican Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith, expressed doubts about the phenomenon and about the Ruiny Report, which is considered an authoritative contribution to be compared with other opinions and reports. This is saying two things about the Ruiny Report. Number one, it's an opinion to be compared with other opinions. It's a report basically giving their thoughts, their findings to be compared with other opinions and reports. It is not binding. All right. And the second thing about it is the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith was very negative about it. In fact, they were so negative about it that they asked Pope Francis to rip it up and immediately issue a total negative declaration against Medjugorje. Okay. Now, down here, Pope Francis, unwilling to have the Ruiny Report put up for auction, decided the opinions of the members had to be sent directly to him, and that's exactly what happened. What he did, what the Pope did here, rather than throw the whole thing out, because the Ruiny Report only talks about 7 apparitions. It says 7 apparitions are worthy for, consideration. All the rest, all the 40,000 apparitions after that, it throws out. We're going to go through this detail by detail. These are 3 false claims that are being made about the Ruiny Report, and I'm going to shoot each one of them down one at a time. 1, the claim is that it constitutes an approval and it's accepted by the Vatican. You can see from the article that's not true. It's not an approval. It's not accepted by the Vatican. In fact, the Ruiny Report was issued 5 years ago. 5 years ago. And the Vatican still has not approved it. The second thing is, and he has said this on the show, that it is positive on the first year. In fact, he has said it's an approval, the first year is approved. It's not so. The Ruiny Report, as I'm going to show, I'm not going to tell you, Greg, I'm going to show you because I've got the actual report here. It's not positive on a year. It's positive on 7 apparitions that occurred over 10 days. That occurred from June 24, 1981 to July 3rd, 1981.
Is that positive as an opinion, but not on?
Yeah, positive that they view those as potentially credible, which means absolutely nothing unless the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith now I've already showed you a couple of apparitions where the bishop actually approved them and the Vatican stepped in and said, oh, no. We're overruling you. Okay. So this needs to be made very, very clear. And I know you read a book that I've also read that talks about this. If the Pope approved the Ruiny Report today, he would be officially declaring that the Virgin Mary is not appearing in Medjugorje. I want to go, well, I have a statement from Donald Hartley, I think it may be in this article, where he said he stands on the Ruiny Report. The Ruiny Report itself is saying that the Virgin Mary is not appearing in Medjugorje. That's what the Ruiny Report is saying, that she hasn't appeared in, that she appeared in Medjugorje up to July 3rd, 1981, but not since. Now, I disagree with the Ruiny Report. I don't believe that Mary has ever appeared in
Well, the one thing that always gets me on when they're dealing with opinions was there was at least one negative opinion in that group, right?
on Medjugorje.
On the Ruiny Report about Medjugorje.
Well, yeah, there was one negative opinion on the first 7 days.
Yeah,
Okay.
And then there was a second one that didn't want to give an opinion at this time.
Right.
So
On the apparitions that followed from the 8th day forward, do you know how many of the 20 members voted in favor of those apparitions?
I don't know.
They did have an official vote. John Carpenter says that they did not vote on that's false. They did vote on. They voted on apparitions 8 through 47,000 or whatever. Out of 20 members, guess how many voted to approve those apparitions? In other words, to approve that the Virgin Mary is appearing in Medjugorje now. Out of 20.
I don't know the exact number. No.
That's the number right there.
I'll be darned.
0.
Yeah.
Not 1. Okay. Now, all I asked for from Donald and from John was report the facts. We can have differences of opinion. They believe that Medjugorje is going to be approved. I don't. That's fine. But I asked them to report the facts. Now I'm going to play you. This quote right here was the clincher for me. This quote right here told me that I need to leave the Deeper Truth Show. And I'm going to be honest with you, this was about November that this happened. And I had already made the decision to leave. And the only thing that kept me from leaving at that point was that our brother Don Hartley had a stroke. And I decided, okay, I'm going to wait this out. I'm going to try to support my brother, help him get back to health. And I tried to do that as long as I possibly could until John Carpenter's lies just became intolerable. I want you to listen to what he says here, and then I take it apart piece by piece.
There's one major difference with these apparitions. It occurs in these 40 years, especially the last 10 or 20. Social media has been involved. And I don't know of any other apparitions that ever had social media worldwide chime in with opinions and supposed facts and supposed rumors and supposed, information interfering with, just anyone's understanding of what's going on. I don't think we've ever had that before with any other apparitions throughout history. So that's a whole new thing. And again, 40 years for Medjugorje, and it does have limited. The first year it has been approved with a large majority vote. And by the way, this was the only time the Vatican stepped in to take the decision away from the local bishop, because he didn't believe in Fatima or Guadalupe or Lourdes or any apparitions. And so they felt like too much was going on there to just not investigate it. So when he wouldn't do it, for the first time in history, the Vatican took it away from him and set up their own investigation, which took a good 3 years. And the vote finally came in, I believe it was 15 positive votes out of 17, I believe. So that was an overwhelming majority. And it was just for the first year. Now, people might think, well, what about the other 39 years? Well, it's a lot of material to cover. And the first year was crucial because that's when everything started and was first being known to everybody, and many things were happening that first year. So that's a lot to cover. Similarly, in Kibeho, Rwanda, they only approved the first 3 visionaries out of 8. And they basically said they don't have anything negative about the rest of the years and the rest of the visionaries. It's just too much work, and they just left it open for the rest of it to be approved later on. But they approved the first year with the first 3 visionaries. So it's not unusual for investigation to not study every single month and every single year, but just take a chunk of it and decide how they view it. So anyway, just wanted to throw that in.
But the bishop that you were just talking about from Medjugorje, he was the second one, if I'm not mistaken. The first one initially was, he had positive, but when the communists come down upon him, and I hear the criticism about that too. You know, there people were criticizing that as well. But I think that it's interesting when you look at it. And
it's interesting. That was the statement that did it for me, because Greg, we're going to go through this.
Just one comment real quick.
Yeah.
It's something that has bothered me whenever we're talking about opinions. That even if one said no and 15 said yes, that one could be right and the 15 could be wrong whenever it's an opinion.
Right.
You know,
So
and if they're looking at the same facts, you know, at the Vatican level as they research things, I would think that they would not put their signature behind anything that had people in opposition.
well, I agree with what you're saying. And the way that they solve that is it goes by the jurisdiction. It goes by the jurisdiction that's set up. Okay. And the local bishop is the one who has jurisdiction. So think of these people who did this report as researchers on a fact-finding mission, making a report to the bishop. Then it is up to the bishop, under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, to decide whether this is adopted or not. And if the bishop is not acting in accordance with the Holy Spirit, then the Vatican steps in. This is where we trust the infallibility of the church.
I have another question on that too. The statement about, I guess, talking about the second bishop, saying he did not believe in, I don't know, Fatima, Lourdes, Guadalupe, etc.
I'm going to address that coming up here in the next minute. I go piece by piece through everything that he said here. And to be perfectly blunt with you, Greg, the amount of false statements in this 3-minute clip is breathtaking. It's absolutely staggering how many things they get wrong in one 3-minute clip, and I'm going to show. Okay, so let's talk about the first 37 seconds of the clip. This is where he addresses this idea that it's social media's fault. Now, here, I can't prove that what he's saying is false, but I'm going to give you the preponderance of the evidence. Okay, he says social media explosion from 10 to 20 years. 10 years would take us back to 2012. 20 years would take us back to 2002. Here's the problem. Even if you go with the older date, the 2002 date, all 4 of the condemnations of Medjugorje were 11 to 15 years before that. So way before this explosion of social media, there was enough negative information about Medjugorje to condemn it 4 times. Okay, the apparitions had already gone 20 years at that point unapproved. All right, you cannot quantify how the proliferation of anti-Medjugorje information has surpassed and negatively implemented the pro-Medjugorje side. Now, Donald Foley, in his book, Medjugorje Complete, makes this case. What happened during that explosion of social media? Books were written that bypassed the Vatican, and pilgrimage to Medjugorje exploded. So the preponderance of evidence is that exactly the opposite of what John Carpenter is claiming here is true. that these apparitions should have died out in 1991 after they were condemned by the Yugoslav Bishops' Conference. Instead, they exploded into a worldwide event. So the first claim is unfounded. I can't say it's false. I can't prove that it's false. I believe it's false, but I can't prove that it's false. But it did prove that it's unfounded. He did not provide any empirical evidence to support that claim, and I think the empirical evidence is against it. Now, here's where he makes a demonstrably false statement. In 38 seconds to 48 seconds, he says, the first year Medjugorje has been approved with a large majority vote. That's false. The Ruiny Report is positive on 7 apparitions, 10 days. Nobody's talking about a year being approved by anybody. Secondly, the Ruiny Report is not an approval. It's a recommendation for an approval. But again, it's a recommendation of an approval of 10 days, not a year. This idea of an approval of a year, again, is something that John Carpenter apparently fabricated out of thin air. There is absolutely no credible evidence anywhere to substantiate that claim, and I challenge him to try to produce it. Okay. So the Rowini Commission report was a non-binding report of opinions that were submitted to the Pope and the Congregation of the Doctrine of Faith for their consideration. This is what I posted earlier. I'm going to read it again. Francis mentioned them on the airplane. The Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith, led by Cardinal Muller, expressed doubts about the phenomenon and about the Ruiny Report, considered an authoritative contribution to be compared with other opinions and reports. It's nothing but a group of opinions. It is not binding. It is not an approval. Okay, so here, John Carpenter tells you what the facts are, and I'm showing you what the facts are. So if he can produce anything to counter this article, I would be glad to hear it. This is the
Cardinal Mueller was pretty solid cardinal.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Cardinal Mueller is coming out against Medjugorje.
That's what I'm saying there.
Yeah, he's coming out against it. He's saying he's expressed doubts about the phenomenon and about the Ruiny Report. Okay. Here is the official position of the Catholic Church. Until such time as the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, and you saw how they feel about the Ruiny Report, until such time as the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith releases its findings, the 1991 determination of the Yugoslav Bishops' Conference is in effect, which means the apparitions are condemned. The Congregation of the Doctrine of Faith wanted to slam the Ruiny Report, rip it up, throw it in the trash can the day that they got it. And the Pope said, hold on. Let's look at these first 10 days a little deeper. Let's look at this before we act. But the Pope himself, as I'll show later, is very, very negative about the apparitions in Medjugorje. Okay. Now, this is the link to this. Okay. You can click on this link here. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to tie you up all night. You can click on this link. It takes you to the actual article that shows you this. The ban against promoting and officially recognizing Medjugorje is still in effect. Now, they bring up, well, the Pope's allowing pilgrimages there. Well, he could hardly stop it. There's 4 million people going there a year. The Pope could hardly stop that. But he says they're recognizing it as a place where people are praying, people are going to mass, people are going to confession. These are good things. So he's allowing dioceses to organize pilgrimages to Medjugorje so long as they're not promoting it as being true. Now, I believe the Pope and the CDF will approve the Ruiny Report right about the time they hold the ice capades in hell. That's my opinion. All right. If they want to believe that the Pope will eventually approve that, they have their right. But here's where they don't have their right. Any claim that the Vatican has already approved even a fraction of this phenomenon is a straight up lie. It is a lie. It is a heresy. They can't do that. Okay. Now, here's the report itself. Okay. Anybody has any questions? I've got the report. And I'm going to go back to it in a minute. I've got the official report on this link. All anybody has to do is put in this link and read it themselves. So again, unlike John Carpenter, I'm not going to tell you what's in the Ruiny Report. I'm going to show you chapter and verse. All right. In between 49 and 57, they make a claim that I've already refuted. They said, this is the only time the Vatican has stepped in to take the investigation away from the local bishop. Greg, I've already showed you 2 examples where that happened. It happened in Garabandal. It happened in Amsterdam. In both times, the local bishop tried to approve those apparitions. The Vatican stepped in and said, ain't happening. So this claim right here is false. The Vatican has stepped in before. What's amazing and ironic about it, though, is that the Vatican, that's not what happened here. The Vatican did not step in and take away the investigation from, the Vatican did not step in and take away the investigation from Cardinal Parrott. These are the norms that are established by the Vatican. Here's the link right here, straight from the Vatican website. You can look at, you can follow this, and it shows the norms on how a private revelation is determined, and it shows the process. What caused Medjugorje, the investigation in Medjugorje, to rise from the local bishop to the bishops of the country to the Vatican is how it grew in size. It became an event that at first was only affecting the Diocese of Mostar. Then it was affecting the entire country of Yugoslavia, which now is former Yugoslavia. All right. And then it now is a worldwide event. That's why the Vatican stepped in. Now, read this. This is from the direction. This is a quote from the directive that I just showed you. These are the Vatican's official instructions. If the ordinary of the place, having done his part, turns to judge the matter with greater certainty, if the matter pertains to the national or regional level, it can be escalated. But look at this, always with the prior consent of the ordinary. Okay? Read this article. This is from Wikipedia. This shows that exactly the opposite of what John Carpenter is saying is the truth. On 17 March 2010, the Holy See announced that at the request of the bishop, it had established a commission. The Vatican stepped in because Bishop Parrott said, help, I need help. This is too big for me. It's too big for me. It's too big for my country. He asked the Vatican to step in and help him. It is exactly the opposite of what John Carpenter just claimed. John Carpenter just claimed that the Vatican said, oh, Bishop Parrott, you're doing such a bad job. We're going to step in and we're going to take this away from you. And the proof of this is that Bishop Parrott was the bishop of Bosnia-Herzegovina for another 10 years until he voluntarily retired of his own volition. Okay? At the intervention of the sacred congregation can be requested by the ordinary after he has done his part. And that's what happened here. Okay? And this is the criteria, especially if the matter affects the larger part of the church, always after having been consulted by the ordinary, and even if the situation requires a conference of bishops, it is up to the sacred congregation to judge and approve. Okay, this is Bishop Parrott. John Carpenter's claim here is false. It's proven false. So now from 58 to 120, Bishop Parrott did not believe in any apparitions, including Lourdes or Fatima or Guadalupe. This is the reason the investigation was taken from him. Greg, this is a slander. This is straight up calumny against a bishop, and Donald Hartley and John Carpenter should be ashamed of themselves for doing this. They are calumniating this bishop. These are the words of Bishop Parrott himself. What bishop wouldn't be delighted that the Blessed Virgin Mary would be appearing in his diocese, especially Monsignor Zanuck, a very Marian bishop who, as a priest and later as a bishop, made 11 pilgrimages to various Marian shrines all over Europe, Lourdes, Fatima, Syracuse, and then for the gospel to have mercy on him and begin to appear in his own backyard as if to bring an end to all these wanderings over Portugal. Bishop Perrick saying he was ecstatic at the idea that the Virgin Mary would be appearing there. But then he says, but after a few months, when he heard the small fibs and large lies, insincerities, inexactitudes, and all sorts of fabricated stories from those who claimed that the gospel was appearing to them, he became totally convinced that it was not a matter of supernatural appearances. Fabricated stories, like the fabricated story that Bishop Perrick is against all apparitions. Categorically false, it is a calumny against this good man. Absolutely outrageous. The two of them should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. The Vatican stepped in because of the worldwide impact that this was having. And I don't think anybody would argue that Medjugorje is having a worldwide impact. I don't think anybody could credibly argue that. The Vatican had to step in, and they stepped in when Bishop Perrick begged them for help. Of course, neither one of them can claim how the anti-Medjugorje forces managed to corrupt the Diocesan Commission, the Yugoslav bishops, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, and the Pope. All of those people were supposedly part of this conspiracy. Okay, this claim is proven false. All right, from 121 to 304, the first year is approved. Nothing negative after that. It was just way too much work. They basically left the remaining 39 years alone. False. Okay, now this is what John Hartley says to me. John Benko, you're the one listening to the peanut gallery. I side with the Rowini Commission and I stand on solid ground. Really? Well, here's the problem. Oh, he also says that Father Amorth was one of the most famous Vatican exorcists. He stands with him on this matter. Well, Bishop Amorth was rumored to approve to be in favor of Medjugorje. Nobody's ever proven that. I've never seen a quote that actually proves that. But his successor, when he died, Bishop Gemma succeeded him. And Bishop Gemma is quoted, and I provide the quote, of saying that Medjugorje is absolutely diabolical, that it is the devil's dung. So I guess that Bishop Gemma, the Vatican exorcist, is part of this unholy trinity that Donald Hartley talks about. Okay? Listen to what the Ruiny Report. Now, Greg, I'm not paraphrasing here. I'm quoting from the report. These are the words of the Ruiny Report. The International Commission notes, in any case, that the events subsequent to the first 7 apparitions constitute a real problem, which makes very difficult an evaluation in conformity to that which can be recognized in the original sign. From the original documents made available to the International Commission, it appears that the adolescents had declared that the phenomenon would end, but as we know, this has not happened. Folks, I'm going to show you chapter and verse. This is a quote. These are not my words. These are Cardinal Rowini's words. The first part, he's saying everything after a 7th apparition, real problem. Real problem. In fact, there's such a problem that it's hard to square with the original 7 apparitions. Then he makes an extraordinary claim, because he says the only prophecy that was made during the first 7 apparitions, the 7 apparitions that they're saying are credible, the only prophecy made during that time, we know this did not happen. So the only prophecy made during the first 7 apparitions that they're calling credible turned out to not be true. Well, Blessed Mary doesn't make false prophecies. And all 6 visionaries agreed. They're all 6, if you've seen the transcripts, Greg, all 6 visionaries agree that the apparitions would end on July 3, 1981. And as we know, that did not happen. To me, these two paragraphs put together, they're all you need from the Ruiny Report to know that Medjugorje is false. And when the congregation of the Doctrine of Faith read this, they're like, "You got to be kidding me." The prophecy didn't come true. The apparition synths are a real problem, but you're trying to tell me this is credible? Now, this is my note. Okay, my note. This admission invalidates the first 7 events. These 2 statements invalidate the Medjugorje apparitions. But we go back now to the Ruiny Report. These are no longer my words again. Okay, this is just incredible what they say here. Where does the impulse toward this very long successive continuity really come from? The question is reasonable, all the more if we consider that the places, conditions, times, and relative predictability of the alleged appearance in progress have substantially changed. They now occur with predictable and often organized rhythms. In the course of the hearings, moreover, the International Commission perceived in many ways the great difference of narrative that exists between the original events and the current events. The alleged visionaries, in fact, appeared without emotions and took on an almost professional air in mentioning the phenomenon in progress. Translation: they're acting. The Rowini Commission just admitted they're going through the motions. They're acting. This is just incredible. These are their words, not when on the hand in the transcripts of the 1981 interviews, the freshness and ingenuity of the children who report the lived experiences during the first apparitions emerged with indisputable evidence. These connotations, by contrast, give great credibility to accounts of that time. In other words, the first 7 apparitions. But at the same time, they show a noticeably changed attitude, not only on an emotional level, listen to this, but in a certain relation to a certain addiction to repetition. Addiction to repetition. That's a fancy way of saying they're going through the motions. Now, these kids have supposedly been talking to our Blessed Mother for 40 years. And they're just kind of mailing it in, going through the motions. Now, this statement is the most incredible of all. And I'm going to reemphasize again, these are the words of Bishop Rowini, not of John Benko. Considering that such difference in narrative and credibility, cannot be ascribed to reasons of pathological disorder or even outright immorality, look at the exception. If not perhaps in the case of Ivan Dragicevic, the problem of the witness's present credibility remains. So, right here, the Ruiny Report is saying that all of the visionaries have a credibility problem, all of them. Now, that can't be ascribed to a psychological disorder or immorality, except, of course, for Ivan. The Ruiny Report is telling us that Ivan, one of the visionaries, is immoral, has no credibility, and maybe has a psychological disorder. Yet we're supposed to believe that he's conversing with the Mother of God? It's just incredible stuff. This report is absolute cognitive dissonance. The commission states that the apparitions from the 8th one forward present a real problem. Yeah, that's putting it mildly. Thus, the Ruiny Report refutes its own claim. Present credibility of the visionaries. Now, folks, this is the report. Wait a minute. Here's the report. Okay. Here's the section. Section 2.4 of the official Ruiny Report, page 14. I'm going to repeat that again for anybody that listens to this. Section 2.4 of the report, page 14. Present credibility of the alleged visionaries. As for the present credibility, it is necessary to consider 2 arguments wide and repeated that the International Commission, on the basis of its investigations, deemed it necessary to evaluate. Okay? What the International Commission has been able to ascertain in reaction to the accusation of a possible seeking of profit is that the witnesses of the supernatural sign originally addressed to them now effectively have a relation, ambiguous in certain respects, with money and what in general can be called a preoccupation with their own well-being. Good grief. They're money grubbers. This is what the report is saying here. They're preoccupied with wealth and their own well-being. Now, this statement is even more incredible than that one. Yet this ambiguity, rather than being located on the side of immorality, listen to this, is found on the side of the structure of the person, often lacking a social discernment and a cohesive orientation, and also because of it, the inavailability of a steady spiritual guide has been lacking to them in the course of these 30 years. What? They're addicted to money, they're obsessed with money and their own well-being, but it's because they're spiritually immature and they haven't had a spiritual director for 30 years. Are you kidding me? They've been speaking to the Blessed Mother. What more spiritual director do you need than that? This right here, you've been speaking to the Blessed Mother of God for 30 years, but you're spiritually immature because you don't have a spiritual director. I can't even believe what I'm reading here. If anything, there has been many signs exhibiting the self-promotion and lack of pastoral.
Is that Rowini talking again?
And these are Rowini's words.
Wow.
And this is the section that it's from. I'm quoting, I'm not paraphrasing, quoting. This is cut and paste.
And they're starting out by not saying these for sure visionaries, they're saying alleged, right?
Mm-hmm. Then they say the lack of spiritual and human accompaniment is surely one of the causes of certain ambivalences and ambiguities that have manifested among the protagonists of the phenomenon. This negative dynamic reaches its apex in the case of Ivan Dragicevic, whose continued meetings and conferences on the Medjugorje phenomenon seem to constitute his only work and support. He has also, listen to this, this is Rowini speaking. He has also lied multiple times and is also less credible in the way he speaks of experiences with the gospel. Cardinal Rowini is calling Ivan Dragicevic a liar. His words, not mine. This is section 2.4, page 14 of the Ruiny Report. The Ruiny Report that Donald Hartley stands by, stands on solid ground, is calling Ivan Dragicevic a liar. Please, I beg anybody that hears this, I beg of you, do not take my word for it. Please don't take my word for it. Look it up. Read the report, read the words for yourself. Okay? If this is coming from the peanut gallery, then Cardinal Rowini is Mr. Peanut, because these are his words, not mine.
Well, once you get a cardinal, got to the point where he said, this visionary has lied multiple times. How can you trust anything he says?
But then the same cardinal turns around and says, okay, this visionary is lying. None of the visionaries are credible. They're going through the motions, they're acting, they're all addicted to money and their own well-being. They're all millionaires. In fact, there's a row of houses in Medjugorje where some of the visionaries live that they call Millionaires Row. One of the visionaries lives in the suburbs of Boston in a house valued at $1 million. And yet, oh yeah, but we believe the first 7 visions are credible. You need a spiritual director, okay? And the Virgin Mary has appeared to you almost 50,000 times. So let me sum this up. This is what the Ruiny Report is saying, okay? I'm sorry. This is what the Ruiny Report should be saying. 6 lying, manipulative, greedy hucksters encounter the Mother of God. who transforms their life so much that in 10 days, they become humble, devoutly religious, obedient Catholics for the rest of their lives. Now, if that was the story of Medjugorje, guess what? I'm on board. I'm on board. Sign me up. The Ruiny Report is saying that just the opposite happened. It's just the opposite happened. 6 kids were minding their own business, tending sheep. Okay, poof, the Virgin Mary appears and they transforms their lives into millionaires, money-grubbing hucksters, liars, actors. This is the result of their encounter with the Blessed Mother of God. Now, I'm going to say right now, Virgin Mary has never appeared in Medjugorje. This is the woman that's appeared in Medjugorje. Okay? The devil woman. That's who's appeared in Medjugorje. This is not Mary. Mary does not do this to people. Mary transforms lives in an overwhelming positive way, not an overwhelming negative way. Okay? Again, here's the link to the whole report. And if you want, I'll be glad to email it to you after we're done with this. I'll email you the report if you like. Okay? So let's deal with his assertions. Mr. Hartley claims that I have bad feelings towards Pope Francis. Greg, have you ever heard me say a negative word against Pope Francis, even once?
I haven't. I mean, I haven't heard you say it. I probably have a couple of times. Yeah.
I love the man. Okay. I mean, yeah, I don't agree with his positions on certain things like global warming. Okay. But I think he's a wonderful man, a wonderful devout Christian. Okay. The Pope allows pilgrimages to Medjugorje. Yes. He's allowing pilgrimages there, but as long as you don't promote the apparitions as true. And he's saying that Bishop Hoser was sent to Medjugorje to evaluate, to prove that the apparitions were true, or to evaluate that the apparitions is true. That's not true. The Pope has very clearly stated Bishop Hoser was sent to Medjugorje to evaluate the pastoral needs of the community. Now, he has since died, and there's been a successor sent there, but also to evaluate the pastoral needs. Bishop Hoser was there for 5 years. He could have claimed, almost 5 years, he could have claimed these apparitions legit. He didn't. Okay. Gabriel Amorth was an exorcist, not an expert on apparitions. However, if we're going to talk about, okay, Gabriel Amorth was alleged to have approved of Medjugorje, or alleged to have been favorable to Medjugorje. I don't know that that's a fact. I've never seen anything that says that's a fact, but I do know for a fact that his successor, Bishop Gemma, said, and this is a quote, Medjugorje is a diabolical fraud motivated by the devil's scum. Now, I've heard that Donald took exception by me calling Medjugorje diabolical. Take it up with Bishop Gemma. The Vatican's chief exorcist says the same thing that I'm saying. And every indication that it is diabolical. And we're going to get into that in just a few minutes. I don't want to drag this on forever, but there are a few more points that I want to cover. Okay. In 58 months, the Vatican has not accepted the Ruiny Report. In 58 months, the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith has not accepted the Ruiny Report. In fact, they slammed it. Okay. This is what Pope Francis said. I'm quoting now Pope Francis now. These are his words, okay? The first apparitions were to children. The report more or less says that these need to continue being studied. He said, but as for the presumed current apparitions, the report has its doubts. I personally am more suspicious. I prefer the Madonna as mother, our mother, and not a woman who's the head of an office who every day sends a message at a certain hour. Listen to this. This is not the mother of Jesus, and these presumed apparitions don't have a lot of value. The Holy Father is saying right here, this is not the mother of Jesus. The Pope is saying this. This is not the mother of Jesus. These apparitions don't have a lot of value. I say that I'm part of some unholy trinity. Well, guess what? The whole unholy trinity apparently is me, Bishop Gemma, and the Pope. That's apparently the unholy trinity that Donald was talking about. So the Pope has already rejected 99.9% of the alleged apparitions of Medjugorje. Okay, now I want to go into this last part, and I'm going to go through it very quickly because I know your time is precious and so is mine. I'm going to make the case against Medjugorje and why these apparitions are false. I'm going to make the case on a factual basis. Okay. The condemnations were all made after the investigations by competent bodies acting in good faith. That's point number one. Bishop Zanuck led a commission to do a report to him, and the report ruled that the visions were not supernatural in order. Bishop Zanuck approved that report and declared them as not supernatural. Then Bishop Zanuck organized a second commission. They came back with the same findings. Bishop Zanuck observed that commission and came back with a finding of not supernatural. Then Bishop Parrott, Bishop Zanuck's successor, started a commission. The reported findings were the same, not supernatural. Bishop Parrott approved that commission. Then a nationwide commission of 20 Yugoslav bishops, nationwide, and of course, the country of Yugoslavia has and now been torn apart since then. 20 Yugoslav bishops, one bishop, okay, refused to vote. The other 19 voted against the supernatural affiliation of these apparitions. So, out of 22 bishops, 21 out of 22 bishops voted that these apparitions are not supernatural, and the one bishop that did not vote against them did not vote at all. Now, I need somebody to explain to me how all of those bishops are wrong. Okay, so here's how I pose the question. What would a reasonable person conclude based on the evidence? Okay, so first we applied this to the argument of these bishops. Bishop Zanuck had to rule on the facts. First, this is a fact. All 6 visionaries were adamant that the visions would end on July 3rd, 1981. That is a fact. It is indisputable. They did not. So this prophecy was proven to be not credible. So that's strike one against the apparitions. Fact. The visionaries themselves have been caught in multiple indisputable documented lies. And as I showed you earlier, even the Ruiny Report admits this. Vicka, the visionary, had to change her testimony in court because she was about to face a perjury charge. Did you know that?
I didn't know. Say that again.
Vicka, one of the visionaries, had to change her testimony in court because the court was going to charge her with perjury. She was caught in a lie, and she had to admit that she was caught in a lie because she was facing a perjury charge. Does that sound like somebody is talking to the Blessed Mother? Another fact, the visionary certainly did not follow the patterns of previous approved events. The greed and lack of entrance into the religious life of the seers is just one example. This is the only apparition, major apparition in history, where not one of the seers entered into the religious life. Not one. Fact, though the overwhelming majority of the messages, probably over 90% of the messages, fell into that category of not offensive, but banal, like Hallmark card messages. There clearly were some undeniable, heretical, and even blasphemous messages. Okay? Messages stating to the fact that the Virgin Mary was covered with the sins of all the people around her, that she was about to drop the baby Jesus. Things like that. I mean, just blasphemy. Okay? Now, these facts are not convenient for those trying to prop up Medjugorje. Okay? This is a good summation. This is from CatholicApologetics.info. This is a Catholic apologetic site. It is the duty of the local bishop of the diocese in which the supernatural events take place, Monsignor Zanuck remitted his duty by forming the diocesan commission to do an impartial inquiry. Okay, the Monsignor Zanuck condemned the apparitions as not made by the Most Holy Virgin Mary. So Bishop Zanuck is saying this is not Mary. Okay, the second diocesan commission, which worked from 84 to 86, voted explicitly on the 2nd of May, 1986. Okay, overwhelmingly against the supernatural nature of the apparitions. 11 negative, 2 positive, and 2 that did not vote. Again, the bishop with jurisdiction approved the reports. That is now 2 condemnations of Medjugorje. Number 3, the declaration of the Episcopal Conference in 1991 stated, on the basis of the studies conducted so far, it cannot be affirmed that supernatural apparitions and revelations are occurring. That's number 3. Now, number 4 was the Yugoslav Bishops' Conference. Those are 4 official condemnations. But look at this. Although this is not official, made as an official statement, Bishop Herrick said this: my conviction and my position is not only non-constant de supernaturalis, which means they're not only not affirmed as supernatural, but his position is that they have been proven to not be supernatural. This is on October 2nd, 1997. Bishop Herrick is giving these apparitions the strongest condemnation possible. Okay? Remember the question earlier? Are you against apparitions? They didn't believe in any apparitions at all. Look at this question. Are you, as a matter of principle, against apparitions? The bishop replied, quite the contrary. I've been 8 times the Lord's. I've organized pilgrims. I've done much for the Holy Virgin. I was even in Penang, in Bahrain, Belgium, and Syracuse. Both bishops are on the record saying they're absolutely not against apparitions. Okay? The National Committee, composed of 20 bishops, 19 of the 20 bishops voted against the apparitions. Okay? So here it is right here. Now, to believe what John Carpenter is alleging, what John Carpenter and Don Hartley are alleging, to believe what they're alleging, you have to believe that Bishop Zanuck was incompetent or he was compromised by the communists. That's the allegation that Donald Hartley, you heard him make. I played the audio for you. Bishop Zanuck was compromised by the communists. And Bishop Herrick was incompetent or he was compromised because he's against all apparitions, apparently. And the majority of the Episcopal Conference was incompetent and compromised, and 19 of 20 members of the Yugoslav Bishops' Commission were incompetent or compromised. All 4 of those factors have to be in place in order to say that, well, you know what, the decision was made unfairly. This was elevated to the Vatican because these bishops did not act. I mean, it's just absolutely insane, and this is the amount of evidence. Okay? Now, we talked about the credibility of those who are supporting the apparition. Now I'm going to tell you, I'm going to wrap this up and tell you some stuff that's really going to shock you and stun you. Okay? Father Vlasic was the spiritual director to the visionaries. He was in their inner circle. All right? He was defrocked and excommunicated. And among the serious charges were violations of the 6th commandment. All right? His sexual deviancy came to be known by Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, okay, who, listen to this, who forced him to leave Medjugorje for this and for conjuring up evil spirits. He is now a full-fledged promoter of the occult New Age and a promoter of USC conspiracies. He's got his own radio show. This was the spiritual director of the visionaries. This was the innermost guy in their innermost circle. And he's a sexual deviant. He's a pervert. He's into the occult and black magic, conjuring up evil spirits. And he's a New Age occult UFO conspiracy theorist. That's just the beginning. Classic fellow Franciscans, Fathers Vega and Fresina, they led a mob to evict the clergy from the Mostor Church. Bishop Zanuck suspended them for leading a mob into the church. Bishop Zanuck suspended them. The gospel, the so-called gospel, told the seers that the bishop was to blame and the dissident priests were to ignore the bishop's directive. This naked disobedience of the bishop is something Our Lady is not capable of. Okay? Over the next few months, the devil with the blue dress on said the priest should stay in the diocese and continue to hear confessions and give communion even though they had no priestly faculty. This is fact. This is documented fact on the record. This is blasphemy to suggest that our Blessed Mother could do this. The so-called gospel demon then said the bishop, a devoutly Marian priest, Bishop Zanuck, as you already read, was a devoutly Marian priest. Listen to what the so-called Mother of God says about this bishop. He had no love of God in his heart. The demon then continued that the defrocked priest, listen to this, had no faults. They're convicted of sexual sin.
Those words right there, those last two statements, those are things that are in writing and factual by the gospel.
These are things that are cited in Donald Foley's book. Okay, in Donald Foley's book, he has 150 pages of footnotes. He gives chapter and verse. He gives source to everything that every statement that he makes is sourced to an original source where you can go and verify the information yourself. Okay, we're not finished here. Father Vega, the faultless priest, took a bit of a hit when he, like Vlasic, was defrocked for sexual indiscretions. He impregnated a nun. This is the priest that has no faults. Okay, their Franciscan brother and central Medjugorje figure, Father Joseph Zasko, another prominent insider with the visionaries, was also defrocked for insubordination, and listen to this, molesting the Medjugorje pilgrims. This is spiritual advisor of the visionaries. He's molesting the pilgrims. Later, the Franciscans were involved in the kidnap of Bishop Eric. They kidnapped the bishop, who had to be rescued by the Yugoslav government. Yugoslav government had to intervene to rescue the bishop from these. Now, he says that I'm following the peanut gallery. This is the gallery that Donald Hartley is following. This is the Medjugorje gallery here, the chain gang. It's incredible. Now, when I read stuff like this, come on, try to tell me that the apparitions of Medjugorje are true. I'm supposed to believe this? Now, I will concede up front that a few rosaries have turned gold. I told you myself, I saw some medals that turned gold. Okay? Now, same thing happened in Nekeda, Wisconsin. Nekeda, Wisconsin, that we talked about earlier. All right? Bishop John Trakey of Nekeda investigated the alleged apparitions and ordered all activities stopped in 1950 by saying all claims regarding supernatural revelations and visions made by the aforementioned Miss Van Hoop are false. Furthermore, all public and private revelation connected with these false claims is prohibited. Now, I know for a fact that Donald Hartley has said to some people, Nekeda, Wisconsin is still being investigated by the church. Okay. In 1972, the bishop informed Mary Ann that he would take sanctions if his directives were not followed. In other words, not only was it condemned, but the bishop actually threatened the woman that was continuing to promote it, said he was going to take action against her if she didn't stop it. So it's forcefully condemned as you can be. And you know what? Here's the source. In case anybody wants to know, this is from apparitionreview.com. This is a good site to get the approval status of apparitions. This is one that's been condemned. Our Lady of the Roses at Bayside, Neckarville, Wisconsin. These are apparitions that have been condemned. The poem of the man god, okay? Condemned. Guess what? The so-called Lady of Medjugorje claims that there's absolutely nothing wrong with the poem of the man god and that people were perfectly entitled to read it. So the so-called Lady of Medjugorje, the demon, is encouraging people to read a book that was placed on the Vatican list of forbidden books. And this just gets more incredible as we go on. Okay, so now let's talk about Medjugorje. Let's talk about the facts of Medjugorje that make it different than all of the supernatural events that have been approved. These are facts, they're indisputable, and John Carpenter and Don Hartley will not produce one shred of evidence to support these, to refute these claims. These are the facts. Fact number one, not one documented miraculous cure verified by the Lord's Medical Bureau. The Lord's Medical Bureau has investigated many, okay, reported cures from Medjugorje and found not one of them to be credible, okay? You'll hear John Carpenter talk about the scientific studies that were done on that found the brain waves and all this stuff. Here's a fact. Not one publicly released, peer-reviewed scientific study has been produced. In 40 years, Greg, not one. That you and I can go on, we can pull down the review, look at the data, examine it for ourselves. Not one, okay? Not one verifiable prediction made at Medjugorje has ever come true. Not one, including the first one that said the apparitions would end on July 3rd, 1981. Okay? Not one sanctioned bishop or body of the Bosnian Catholic Church has ever issued an approval of these events. Okay? And not one visionary has entered the religious life. Okay? On the contrary, the visions are context, even by the Ruiny Report, as untrustworthy, spiritually immature, and going through all the motions. Okay? Now, this is a typical message. When I told you that most of the messages are kind of Hallmark cardish, this is a typical message. I just pulled this one out randomly because it's so typical what most of the messages are like. Be together and do not argue. Do not be disorderly, my angels. I will make you attentive. I will guide you on the sure way. Okay, there's nothing offensive about that. But what you don't see that you see at apparition sites such as Lourdes, such as Fatima, such as Guadalupe, is you don't see any progression. 40 years after the start of the apparition, you're still getting messages like this. There's been no new doctrines proclaimed. There's been no great predictions made. All right. You can actually, there's a website that you can actually go to, and I'm going to show you later. You can actually search the messages. You can actually do a keyword search of every message in the entire 40-year history of Medjugorje. Now, Our Lady of Fatima was very, very vocal about the sexual sins and impurities that are polluting us all, and how more sins go to hell because of sexual sins than any other sin. Do you know how many mentions there are of sexual sins in the apparitions of Medjugorje? 0. Do you know how many mentions there are of abortion in the messages of Medjugorje? 0. Do you know how many mentions there are of Russia in the 40-year messages of Medjugorje? 0. Which is incredible, because in 1917, when Our Lady of Fatima was talking about Medjugorje and was talking about Russia, it was unthinkable that Russia could ever be a threat to the world. Now, when Russia is a threat to the world, the so-called Gospel of Medjugorje is saying nothing about Russia. Now, I want you to watch this video. This is Vichka, the visionary, okay? In this video, okay, she claims that while the visions are taking place, they don't see anything around them. So somebody tries to put that to the test, and I want you to watch what happens. This is insane.
tourists would defy shells and sniper bullets to visit the shrine at Medjugorje. They've congregated here through bad times and good. Indeed, in 1992, when shells hit the church but failed to explode, Medjugorje's reputation grew still further as a place of miracles. In 1985, 6 young children came down from this hill and announced that they'd seen a vision of the Virgin Mary. She appeared again to them on consecutive Fridays, and the word spread. As at Fatima 60 years before, a vision by a group of children made the place a magnet for the faithful. It was said that during their visions, the children were truly in trance. They claimed to hear nothing and to be totally unaware of their surroundings. But in Montreal, Canada, a professor of parapsychology decided to investigate. Louis Bélanger took a video camera to record the children in their regular trance. But he says what he recorded calls into question the state of ecstasy the children experience.
When they see the Virgin Mary, the visionaries claim that they are totally disconnected from the environment, that they don't hear other people, that they don't see other people, that they are completely concentrated on the apparition of the Virgin Mary.
Every week, the Virgin is said to appear to the young visionaries at a Friday service. Bélanger set up his camera and sat back to watch.
Now, they make the sign of the cross, and they begin the prayer, Our Father. And during that prayer, suddenly there is the beginning of the ecstasy. They kneel down, and they are in contact with the Virgin Mary.
If they're truly in ecstasy, nothing should distract the children. But suddenly, to Bélanger's later amazement, an onlooker called Jean-Louis jabbed his hand towards Vitska on the right.
At the moment of filming, I did not see that. Just afterwards, I saw that there was a commotion in the chapel. Everybody was disturbed because Vitska had reacted. Jean-Louis made a threat gesture against the eyes of Vitska, towards the eyes of Vitska, and she reacted. And it was for Jean-Louis an important disappointment.
I'm going to jump forward because I know this has been dragging on a long time. She clearly jumps. There's no question. Afterwards, now nobody has said anything to her about it. Nobody has said, "Hey, Vitska, why did you jump?" Or, Vitska, we noticed that you jumped. Nobody has said anything to her about it. In fact, the person taking the video didn't even notice when it happened. Afterwards, she comes back into the room of her own volition and says, "Hey, I know you guys saw something while I was in there. Here's what happened. It looked like Mary was going to drop the baby Jesus. So I moved to catch him." Are you kidding me? This is documented. This happened, that she said that. That was her story. Mary was going to drop the baby Jesus. Okay? Now, this is a letter. This is from Donald Foley's book. This is a letter.
Let me go to the restroom real quick.
Okay. I'll pause it. All right. My apologies for how long this has dragged on. It's just a couple more minutes and we'll be done. I just feel like this is very important. Ivan writes a letter to the bishop threatening him that the lady said that he better convert and change or else. that this would be her last warning, and that he better not cause nor incite dissension among the clergy, nor emphasize the negative side of the vision. This was to be the last warning that he should convert or change, otherwise the verdict of the gospel and her son would soon reach him. This gospel is warning the bishop, you better straighten out and support these apparitions, or we're coming to get you. Are you kidding me? Does that sound like the Blessed Virgin to you?
Wow.
So the Gospel of Medjugorje is producing quite a record of accomplishments. So let's just review the record. The Gospel, the Lady of Medjugorje. She's about to drop the baby Jesus. She's defending sexual predators. She's encouraging defrocked priests to hear confessions and celebrate communion. She's encouraged disobedience to the bishop. She's threatening that the bishop better get on board with the pro-Medjugorje train and ignore the negative sides. Okay? She endorses the condemned poet of the man God, which is condemned by the Catholic Church, by the Vatican. Okay? In the book, there's a scene where the gospel, the so-called Lady of Medjugorje, nearly brought about the end of the world because a handkerchief was about to be dropped into a river. Okay? On October 1st, 1981, you go into the Medjugorje search engine to search this. Donald continues to claim that this claim is false. You can search it yourself. October 1st, 1981, the Gospel of Medjugorje claims that all religions are equal before God. Okay? She overturns the history of the church for some 1,600 years and the testimony of at least 5 canonized saints, in claiming that the birthday of the mother of Jesus is in August, not September. Okay? She has been shown as indecisive in visions, not knowing what to do, not knowing what to say. She makes predictions, none of which have come true. She becomes filthy from the sins of the reprobates putting their hands on her. This is blasphemy to just like the nth degree here. Okay? She appears on demand to the visionaries all over the world. Visionaries travel all over the world to hotels in distant countries and say, hey, for $10, you can pay me $10 and I guarantee the Blessed Virgin Mary is going to appear today. She tells the visionaries not to pray for themselves. On September 16th, 1984, she said, it's okay to pray for other people. Do not pray for yourself, ever. Okay? She tells people that in heaven, okay, that all people in heaven have a soul and a body. That is her heresy. That is heresy. All people in heaven do not have a soul and a body. She does. All right. A few others, Enoch, Elijah, Joseph, maybe. But all people in heaven have a soul and a body. This is documented. May 6, 1982. This is a heretical message from the Gospel of Medjugorje. She praised Father Vlasic for his work. As you remember, this is one of the priests that was defrocked, one of the pervert priests that was defrocked and excommunicated. She praised him for his work. Now, get this. She says the soul receives a new body. Your old body it rots in the earth, never to rise again. The Lady of Medjugorje is denying the resurrection on July 24th, 1982. She's denying the resurrection of the saints. Oh, and also, apparently, Mary has become a Protestant. On Saturday, September 4th, 1982, Jesus prefers that you address yourselves directly to him rather than through an intermediary. In the meantime, if you wish to give yourselves completely to God and wish that I be your protector, then confide in me all your intentions, your fasts, and your secrets, so that I can dispose of them according to the will of God. Mary is telling, the Gospel of Medjugorje is telling us not to pray to the Blessed Mother. She's become a Protestant. These are the actual Medjugorje transcripts, okay? And again, here's the link. All right? People want to talk about, here's the link. Anybody wants to copy this? Medjugorje.org/messagesall.htm. This is a searchable engine of every single Medjugorje message. If anybody says that I'm lying about these messages, anyone wants to say that I'm lying about October 1st, 1981, look at this. Donald Hartley has claimed that I am lying about October 1st, 1981. Okay? Look at this. Here's the words of the gospel. Members of all faiths are equal before God. God rules over each faith just like a sovereign over his kingdom. There it is right there. All faiths are equal before God. These are the words of the gospel, October 1st, 1981. I don't know how many times I have heard Donald Hartley deny that the Lady of Medjugorje has said this. This is from a pro-Medjugorje site. And there's the quote right there. Okay? Should I keep going? Mariana is being associated with the Caritas of Birmingham. Mariana is still affiliated with Caritas of Birmingham, which has been excommunicated by the Catholic Church and condemned as a heretical cult. It's been condemned by the church as a heretical cult. And guess what? Mariana, the visionary of Medjugorje, is still an active member. There are undeniable ties to the Protestant charismatic movement with monetist undertones.
Give me a little history on monetists. Is that something that St. Augustine was into?
Yeah, it would be easier to send an article underneath. Basically, you know what? Let me just. It'd be easier for me just to look it up. Rather than try to explain it. Okay. Monetism was known by its adherents as a new prophecy, and it was an early Christian movement of the late second century defined by monetists. Monetism held views about the basic tenets of Christian theology, but it was labeled a heresy for its belief in new prophetic revelations. In other words, monetism, it's been said by Patrick Coffin that Medjugorje adherents are almost like modern day Gnostics. It's every day they have a new prophecy. Every day they have this part of the book of Revelation is coming true today. This part of the book of Revelation is coming true tomorrow. It's always new prophecies, new secret knowledge, that we have this secret knowledge that nobody else has. Maria Divine Mercy is an example of this. These are the kind of heresies that are rising out of this.
So it's like the charismatics and the assemblies of God and things like that.
But that's exactly what they're saying here. The Protestant charismatic movement with monetist undertones. In other words, they're saying that the followers of Medjugorje are mimicking that movement. And they have ties to that movement. They've kind of branched out from it. Okay? And here is just an expansion on that. Gnostic secrets that they would not even reveal their secrets. They said, "Oh, we can't reveal our secrets to the commission. What are the 10 secrets?" Well, we can't tell you until they come true. Well, that's awful convenient.
There's one.
I can tell you who's going to win the Super Bowl, but I can't tell you until the day after the Super Bowl.
There you go.
Okay. Vitska is on record as saying that all the inhabitants of hell have horns and tails. I mean, these are just ridiculous. This is on Foley's book, page 200. Okay, now listen to this. The gospel is saying that all the skeptics of Medjugorje were disbelieving Judases. Sounds like Donald Hartley. If you don't believe in Medjugorje, you're diabolical. This is saying you're disbelieving Judas. You're unholy, Donald said. The gospel of Medjugorje says, if you don't believe in the apparitions of Medjugorje, you're a Judas. Well, guess what? I could choose not to believe in the apparitions of Fatima if I wanted to. I believe in Fatima, but I'm not held to believe in Fatima under pain of sin. It's private revelation. Now, I think somebody would be stupid not to believe in Fatima. Okay, listen to this. Father Laurenton, one of the foremost Medjugorje supporters, in the documentation actually changed the wording to doubting Thomas's. Well, that's perjury. He's changed the testimony, recorded the messages, and he changed. Oh, that's too harsh. So we're supposed to believe this is the woman, the mother of God, but you're going in there and changing the mother of God's words. Okay. This one, I had to put a link in there because this claim is just absolutely incredible. I had to provide a link or nobody would believe that it was true. Okay. This is the searchable Medjugorje website. Okay. This is a pro Medjugorje website. See up here, this little search box? You can search all the messages. Okay. This is where Vicka claims that she went to heaven, and there's only 3 colors in heaven. Everyone in heaven wears gray, pink, or yellow. Well, I read in the book of Revelation that there are 12 stones on the wall of Jerusalem. That's 12 colors right there. Vicka's saying there's only 3 colors in heaven. Okay. The Ruiny Report says Ivan has no credibility, but we're supposed to believe the first 7 visions. The first 7 visions are credible, but the only prediction made during that time turned out wrong. The visionaries are spiritually immature and need of direction, but the mother of God's been appearing to them. Okay, this stuff is just crazy. Now, I would just ask anybody, compare these visionaries to Saint Bernadette, Saint Juan Diego, Saints Lucia, Jacinta, and Francisco. In here, I go into Garabandal. I'm not even going to go into that tonight. I prove that Garabandal is also false, but I've already showed you that Garabandal is condemned. Greg, I love you, brother. And you know what? Deep down inside, beneath all the hurt, beneath all the anger, beneath all the betrayal, I still love Donald Hartley. But we got a problem here because there's just no way, after examining all this evidence, that I can claim that Medjugorje is credible. I don't think that any rational person examining all this evidence could really claim that Medjugorje is credible, nor could any rational person really claim that what John Carpenter has been putting out on his show is accurate. So I'm not going to put you on the spot and expect you to answer that claim. I will just close this by saying that I love you, my brother. I've made my case, and now it is the other side's opportunity to see what they can do with this information. I will send you a copy of this video, and let's just see what they can do with it. See if they can counter it. See if they can convince you that the information that I have proven is not correct. Is that fair enough?
That's fair.
Would you do me a favor and close us with a prayer tonight, please?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Remember, most gracious Virgin Mary, we need help from the Holy Spirit right now. And we ask, remember that you have never let any of us down. Answered all needs and prayers that are in the will of God. Be with us today. Be with our families. Help them see the light. Bring them closer to the good Lord for eternity so that we all are in heaven someday together. And when we ever have disagreements, there's so many things that are going on that are vile and everything that we can, first, and I know that those that know me know I want everything I read and everything to be pure, to investigate and everything. And I've offered that to everybody to show me these things. And I want to thank you for your efforts tonight. And as I pray for you, John, God love you. And thank you for giving me the time and showing me what your facts are, backing the proofs on Medjugorje. And I'm looking forward to Donald trying to do that same thing for me. I do would like to.
Brother, we've known each other for a long time, and I consider you a brother in Christ, and I pray for you, and I hope you'll continue to pray for me. God bless you. Have a wonderful night. Okay.
God bless you, Father and Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.